Alright, so after Metroid Prime 1, we got, you know what? This lighting is fucking terrible. I dig it for a little intro bit. Let's go back to the light world so I don't have to record in this darkness. There we go, that's a little better. You can actually see that I got a green hat now, match my little profile icon there, but let's go over there so I can turn on this light behind me. I don't have the auxiliary right now. Alright, much better. Stupid gags out of the way. So anyway, Metroid Prime 2. So, this was the game that set the domino effect into motion. I had played Metroid Prime, but then I found out there's more of them. Though this would end up being one of the last Metroid games I played because getting an actual copy is not easy. Not back then anyway. You know, GameStop was phasing out Gamecube games and all that. So I ended up playing Metroid Prime 2 for the Metroid Prime trilogy after I'd already emulated most of the 2D games. But, you know, Metroid Prime 2 has had quite the reputation over the years. I remember it being the black sheep, the bad one, the one you play when you're kind of all out of options, you know? But recently I've found people online saying it's better than the first Prime game, and I'm like, wow, opinions really have changed. So, which is the case? Was this an underrated gem this entire time, or is Metroid Prime 2 still the black sheep that you should really not waste your time on? Well, let's find out right now. So Metroid Prime was a massive success for Retro Studios and Nintendo, at the time being the best-selling game in the series, and would stay that way until Metroid Dread released on the Nintendo Switch in 2021. Wanting to strike while the iron was hot, Nintendo would immediately demand a sequel from Retro Studios. Yes, for the first time, Metroid was getting a direct sequel on the same console, assuming you don't count Zero Mission that released on the GBA just a few months prior. But hey, that was a remake of the NES game using Fusion's engine, not a proper sequel. Originally, Retro Studios wanted to leave Metroid Prime as is and focus on making a multiplayer-focused Metroid game with online multiplayer. Of course, there would still be a single-player mode, but it would simply be for those without friends or a Wi-Fi connection to play with others. Which I must say, thank fuck they moved away from that, considering the results when Nintendo did that later. Development would then shift to making another game like the first game with a focus on the teaser they left for those who got 100% in the first game. Which yeah, I forgot to mention this in the Metroid Prime video. There's a little cutscene if you get 100%. This shift would lead to Metroid Prime 2 as we know it. Yeah, there's a lot of cut concepts I'm not going over, but you can find other videos on those. I'm ready to move on to talk about the gaming story now. Sometime after the first Metroid Prime, the Galactic Federation loses contact with some Federation troops on the edge of Federation territory near the planet Aether. I guess because they couldn't be bothered to search for the troops themselves, they hire Samus to look for them. While approaching the planet, an electrical storm damages Samus' ship, causing her to make a crash landing. The ship can auto-repair itself though, so Samus continues forward to search for the missing GF troops. Things are already uneasy as Samus dives deeper and deeper into these caverns at the start, finding the GF troopers, or dead, what do you expect? Kinda like the Space Pirate Frigate in the first game, these caves with the Galactic Federation tech is a tutorial. Apparently some dark forces at play here as well, and the GF troopers suddenly get possessed by a mysterious dark energy and come back to life as zombies to attack Samus. Eventually Samus runs into what seems to be a dark version of herself, menacingly drifting into this portal. Samus then proceeds to follow, only to find herself transported to this dark place where the dark doppelganger is absorbing tons of Phazon. There are also these dark creatures surrounding the area. The doppelganger then fires at Samus and ultimately breaks the glowing crystal next to her. Suddenly Samus finds herself taking damage as the bubble around her collapses without the crystal, and the dark creatures jump her. Samus manages to escape, but the creatures manage to steal all her upgrades, this being the equivalent of the stupid elevator in Prime 1. Oh no, they fucking did it. Nope, it's time for some alien genocide. With the new mission of getting her space jump back and find out what Doc Samus may be up to, Samus travels deeper into Aether. She eventually surfaces in the temple grounds, and Samus tries to send out a distress signal but finds that the storm is blocking any signals from escaping the planet. She also discovers the ship of the dead Galactic Federation troopers who are unable to send out a call for help as well, and were ultimately killed when the dark energy from earlier began to possess the natural creatures they were already having problems with. Samus then closes the eyes of the captain in a heartwarming touch of character. Other M take notes, then proceeds further until entering the Great Temple. Here she is attacked by the Dark Energy Gang, and after fighting a small boss, she ends up collecting this ball of light. However, after a virus scan, her suit says it's fine, despite being unknown. And no, the unknown item theme here is nothing like the 1-0 mission, it fucking sucks. She then encounters Umos, a member of the Luminoff. He then explains to Samus that Aether was once a peaceful planet, until, well, raise your hand if this sounds familiar. A meteor crashed on it one day and spread phazon across it.
Coincidence? I think not!
However, unlike Talon 4, this meteor also caused Aether to split dimensionally into a light world and a dark world. The dark world also spawned the Ing, the dark creatures that mugged Samus earlier, and the source of the dark energy possessing creatures. Apparently the Luminoff were at war for a long time with the Ing, but eventually their plans to destroy Dark Aether would be intercepted by the Ing and be used to put Light Aether on the brink of collapse. This forced all the Luminoff besides Umos into hibernation as they seemed to be on the verge of defeat in their fight against the Ing. However, it turns out that the glowing ball of light Samus collected just a couple of minutes ago is the planetary energy transfer module that they installed to destabilize Light Aether. You can't make up the convenience there. You see, it was developed by the Luminoff to move the planetary energy of Aether that was originally split between Light and Dark Aether. If all the energy from either is taken, then it will collapse and be destroyed. Umos asks Samus to help reclaim the planetary energy and destroy Dark Aether before the Ing can begin to travel to other planets and threaten the universe. You know what, now that I think about it, why the fuck was this lame ass mini boss, like the creature the Ing entrusted with the whole planetary transfer module, like what the fuck? The Ing was fucking stupid. Now it's up to Samus to travel across the planet to each location, find its temple, find a way to get to that location's dark world, find the 3 keys inside the dark world in order to access the dark temple and fight the boss inside, then return the planetary energy to the Light World Temple. The game is very Zelda-like because of that. You won't be wandering around different areas very often and are usually intended to explore simply one area at a time. Each area is more condensed than areas in the first game too. When people prefer Metroid Prime 2 over its predecessor, it's usually because of these two design differences. It's a lot harder to get totally lost in Prime 2 because of the more condensed design, and the hint system also returns from the first game to help those who do manage to get lost. Along your journey, Samus will also encounter that dark doppelganger of herself, now known as Dark Samus, who goes around causing trouble and gathering phazon. There are points where it will seem like Samus has finished Dark Samus off, only for her to come back again later to cause even more trouble. It also isn't long until Samus will enter the Agon Waste, and Flying Space Pirates have also set up shop here for more phazon experiments, bringing Talon Metroids along with them. Overall, Samus controls a lot like she did in the first Prime game, just with less ability sequence break. To get out of the way right now, Metroid Prime 2 is nowhere near as breakable thanks to scan dashing physics being improved to be less broken, as well as better wall collisions and level structure improving the game's ability to keep you on the intended route. The only skip I've ever done is trying out extended dashing on this particular playthrough to get this energy tank early, and deciding after that breaking Metroid Prime 2 wasn't really for me. Not that I ever tried it before this either. it usually takes a lot more out of bounds glitches, which I didn't do any of that in the first Prime game, and that isn't changing just so I can sequence break this game. Despite those minor changes though, it should be pretty easy to get into this game if you played the first one. The game's still focused on dodging during combat, with the lock-on returning as you'd expect, and just like before, it makes for interesting bosses and enemies. The Prime 2 certainly has a lot more bosses than the first Prime game, which, now that I mention it, I have realized there are only 5 major bosses in Metroid Prime: the Parasite Queen, Flagra, Thaugus, Mega Wrigley, and Metroid Prime. Yeah, they were all great fights. Okay, 4 were great fights, but the number of actual bosses was still pitiful, and the game relied on mini-bosses to pick up the slack. Metroid Prime 2 takes that pitiful number of bosses and laughs at it. Just with the main temples alone, you have 3 bosses plus the final boss. You also have 3 boss fights with Dark Samus, a boss fight with the Dark Alpha Splinger that you get the energy transfer module from, a boss with the Alpha Blog, and an optional boss with a zombie Federation Trooper. You don't only have all that, but in addition to that, you have the in-game boss fights, of which there are 7. So yeah, Metroid Prime 2 has a lot more bosses than the first game, but how do they hold up compared to the first game? Well, to start with the temple bosses, they are some great fights. And Boris is pretty basic all things considered, but Chaika is probably the only boss in the game to actually make use of the light and dark gimmick, making for a high octane fight. And Quadratus is just a spectacle that makes the fight beloved by many Prime 2 enthusiasts. The first 2 fights with Dark Samus are pretty high speed as well, though the first one can take forever until you learn to time up fire and missiles at her because she loves to put up this shield to block them otherwise. The second fight, she's a lot more varied in her attacks, and the moving elevator only adds how dramatic the encounter is. I do actually really like this fight. The Guardians are the exact same in that hijacked all of Samus' power-ups at the start of the game, and that means they Finally, I got it back. I don't have a problem, shut the fuck up. The Guardians are similar to the X-Parasites in Metroid Fusion in terms of boss fights. They use whatever item they have against you, and beating them gives you said item back. It can be the Bomb Guardian dropping bombs, the Boost Guardian boosting all over the arena, or the Grapple Guardian using the Grapple Beam on you. Some are actually pretty fun fights, such as the Bomb Guardian making you take into account your position to avoid getting hit by the explosions, or the Grapple Guardian needing you to use its Grapple Beam against it to stun itself and open it to attack. Though as great as some are, there are the 2 bullshit ones, and yeah, you know which ones I'm talking about. The Boost Guardian is one you encounter early in the Torvis Bog, and you have to fight it without any light shields in the Dark World. Unless you do a Dark Suitless challenge run, you have just gotten it not too long before this fight to reduce the damage you take in Dark Aether. So I get the intention, but it isn't the gradual difficulty increase I think the devs intended. Let's put it this way, in the Metroid Prime trilogy version of the game, they patched this boss fight because in the original game, the Boost Guardian does so much fucking damage it kicks veterans of the series into dangerously low health territory. So yeah, for a first time player, this boss fucking blows. Then there's the Spider Guardian. You know, in the Wii version, this guy isn't bad either. If anything, it's better than the Boost Guardian. In order to damage the Spider Guardian, you have to maneuver your way to different bomb slots to change its path so it damages itself on these electric bug zappers. In the Wii version, you have the Spring Ball, so it gives you more timing after multiple tries to get up to the bomb slot. In the Gamecube version, you have to rely on Morph Ball bombs. It can be fucking obnoxious to get lined up properly so you actually fly up into the slot. I have played enough of the Metroid Prime games though, I have a pretty good grasp of the physics of the Morph Ball, so it wasn't that bad. Until I ran into a glitch where the fucking door redirect the Spider Guardian got stuck in a position where it didn't work anymore, and I had to suicide to reset the fight because of it. So yeah, the Spider Guardian still fucking sucks, fuck you. In terms of power-ups after the steals Samus' stuff, she still keeps the Morph Ball, Charge Beam, and Varia Suit, which all them act just like in Prime 1, except for the Varia Suit being cosmetic now due to the lack of superheated areas in Prime 2. Over the course of the game, Samus will get many items from Prime 1 as well, including missiles, Morph Ball bombs, that oh so sweet space jump, and a lot sooner this time too, super missiles, grapple beam, boost ball, and spider ball, and power bombs. However, there's also a lot of new items in this game, so let's get into those. New to the series are secret missiles, allowing you to lock onto up to 5 targets at once and shoot them all at the same time. It is essentially only for opening up new purple doors because not only are there basically no enemies outside of 1 or 2 that make use of this power up in combat, but the attack even misses the stationary door targets sometimes, and that just baffles me. Also making its 3-dimensional debut is the screw attack of all things. Yeah, after being absent in Prime 1, the screw attack finally makes its appearance, and it kind of sucks in this game. Outside of wall jumping on these required walls, it's mostly only used for crossing large gaps. Kinda reminds me of the 2D space jump whenever you look at it. But yeah, it's nearly impossible to steer, making it very impractical to actually use as an attack. You unlikely hit anything, so yeah, sadly the screw attack just isn't how it used to be. Until the end, that's something it did get right. Metroid Prime take notes. Instead of a thermal visor and x-ray visor, Samus will get the dark visor and echo visor. To start with the dark visor, it's already an improvement because you can actually see things when using it, but it is limited to showing invisible objects in dimensional flux. This usually being platforms that you can jump on. So yeah, in terms of use, it's essentially a lesser x-ray visor from the first game, which is disappointing, but the render distance on it isn't utter shit, so I'll still prefer it. The Echo Visor I can best describe as being like Daredevil, as it lets Samus see sound waves. It's probably the exact opposite of the Dark Visor in terms of visibility, considering that it's next to impossible to navigate with it, meaning you mostly use it for solving puzzles using sound waves. A fine enough power up, and is a cool concept. Visors are not the only thing different, as the game also goes a different route in terms of suit and beam upgrades as well. Instead of a Varia Suit and Gravity Suit, Samus will get the Dark Suit, allowing her to survive better in the poisonous atmosphere of Dark Aether. Early in the game, Samus' health evaporates in Dark Aether unless she's in the protection of one of these light shields scattered around. Said shields even heal her over time. As the game goes on though, these shields can get pretty scarce and some areas are covered in poisonous fog that'll drain her health even faster without the Dark Suit. In order to travel in longer normally, Samus will get the Gravity Booster, basically the Gravity Suit except that it doesn't override the appearance of the Dark Suit. It also, unlike the Gravity Suit, allows you to hover up while getting water, though that ability doesn't get used much because of the lack of water areas, especially after getting this power up. While the Dark Suit's look has grown on me a bit, and getting the Spider Ball still makes its Morph Ball look like a yo-yo, it does get visually boring after a while, since you'll be spending most of the game with it. I feel like Prime 1 better paced the suit upgrades to ensure you had something visually new to look at and cutscenes in Morph Ball from time to time. Beam weapons are the same in handling things differently, though in this case, at the same time, not at all. Very early in the game, Samus will get the Dark Beam, then use that to get the Light Beam not too long after. As I said, these two beams are both extremely different to how things were in Prime 1, while also being basically the exact same at the same time. So to start with the differences, both beams now have an ammo count, which is so strange for Metroid. Killing enemies or destroying boxes with one beam drops ammo for the other. In the case you don't have any ammo, you can use the charge beam to charge up a single shot for any puzzles or doors requiring one of the beams so you don't get stuck. This ammo system can be real make it or break it for some people with these weapons, and while I usually don't find myself running out of ammo, it can feel unnecessary. Now if you thought you'd be matching these weapons for enemy weaknesses, then no sorry. There's nothing in this game to make dark enemies weak to the light beam or light enemies weak to the dark beam. In fact, this is the area where these weapons are basically the same as Prime 1. Take Metroids for instance. They are best frozen with the dark beam because dark energy is cold. So dark Metroids you think be weak to the light beam, but that isn't the case as they are also weak to the dark beam. Or how about the Dark Commandos, the Prime 2 equivalent of the oh so annoying Chozo ghosts that are even more annoying because they lock the door until you kill them or wait them out. Yeah, this is fucking dull, but apparently they too are weak to the dark beam and that makes for quick kills. Meaning the TDM of fighting these bastards come from trying to use the light beam or worse power beam if you're trying to save ammo. I think Chica only makes this worse since it is a boss fight centered around the dark beam on its light form and the light beam on its dark form, given the false impression that beams work this way. Unless I don't know, is Dark Chica actually weak to the dark beam and Light Chica weak to the light beam? I'd be fucking pissed if that was the case, cause that's just idiotic. Overall, the dark beam is sort of like a shotgun and also freezes enemies, basically acting like an ice beam. The light beam also has decent firing rate and will light enemies on fire. For some dark enemies this makes sense, but this beam also has the same effect on regular light enemies. The best way I can put it is the light beam is just a nerfed plasma beam from the first game. Even the Annihilator beam you get late in the game, which also uses both ammo types by the way, is essentially just a wave beam if it was buffed to do the damage of the plasma beam from Prime 1, since it has the strongest homing properties and is even used to fire at switches and puzzles with the Echo's visor. Yeah, so just like the wave beam, it homes in on targets and you use it combined with a visor to activate switches. Golly, that sure is just the wave beam. I'm pretty fucking sure this miscommunication of game mechanics is where most hate for these beam weapons come from. Just looking at things, I have seen so many players and YouTubers play Metroid Prime 2 and hate these beam weapons because nothing in the game tells you they are basically just Prime 1 reskins with ammo counts. This very easily leads to players assuming the beams work in a light versus dark fashion that quickly leads to them being less effective and make people just want the Prime 1 weapons back. Not realizing these are basically the Prime 1 weapons if you actually use them in that manner. Minus the ammo count. Get the ammo upgrades, they're good. Another sticking point for Prime 2 has to be the locations you explore. As I said early on, you explore the mountainous temple grounds, then you'll explore the desolate desert of the Aegon Waste, followed by the wet and murky Taurus Bog, then finally the high-tech Sanctuary Fortress up in the sky. I won't lie, most of these areas are fucking dull. The Temple Grounds is a very cool area to explore at first since it's so different from anything in Metroid Prime 1 in many ways. But then you follow all that grey up with a bunch of sandy brown for hours, and yeah, that's not great. The Aegon Waste may be the worst first area in a Nintendo game yet. Now you're probably going, Tyler, what about the Chozo ruins in the first game? And my response is as follows. First, Metroid Prime opened on the mysterious pirate frigate in space, followed by the lush and green Talon overworld. And yeah, Metroid Prime 2 had both its tutorial and opening area after the tutorial in the grey temple grounds, so it's a lot more boring to follow that up with brown. Second, the Chozo ruins had a lot of ancient architecture, and scan logs keep things interesting as well as the poison early on from Flagra. The Aegon Waste has a little bit of looming off architecture in the first few rooms, of which there are like 3. Then you get space pirate computers in the second half of the area for the space pirate base. And sadly things don't get much better with the Taurus Bog as now you get dull murky green and swampy brown. If I squint my eyes enough I can pretend I'm in the Talon overworld for Metroid Prime 1. But yeah, otherwise this is visually inferior because of it being in a swamp. I know to some the differences are hardly noticeable and the area is a breath of fresh air, but to me, it leans too hard into being wet and, well, a bog. Then you have the underwater areas where you get a heavier dose of brown and grey. And yeah, this is my biggest problem with Metroid Prime 2. For 3 of the 4 areas, the game is so visually dull, I start to go numb. Makes it hard to play being so unstimulating. What in Prime 1 was quiet exploration in between fight sequences and getting power-ups is now an adrenaline and dopamine withdrawal that makes me question why I like this game. As much as I like Prime 1, Metroid Prime 2 has the better fights, better puzzles, and overall higher highs. But the part of the game that is supposed to make those highs well paced for a well balanced game like Prime 1, are instead the lowest parts of the experience. All up until the Sanctuary Fortress. Gone are the browns, the greys, the bland green. The Sanctuary Fortress is a high-tech, fortress. You have all these cool neon colors, being a greenish blue in the light world and a menacing red in the dark world. You have high-tech machinery for background elements and high-tech enemies as well. For my first, I want to say 3 replays of Metroid Prime 2. Early on, I would seriously question why I walked away from the game loving it as much as I would remember, and would have to fight myself to keep playing. But each time I got back to the Sanctuary Fortress, I would remember why the end of the game leaves such a great impression. The visuals certainly are a step up starting here, and allows me to enjoy the increase in the number of puzzles and boss fights. Which I gotta say again, these are massive improvements to the first game. The Spiral Ball and Boost Ball can now be used in conjunction with each other and make for some interesting layouts to travel across. A lot more puzzles involve at least some degree of thinking compared to just scanning something or using a Morph Ball ability to activate a switch like in the first game. It may be simple still, just rotating something with the Boost Ball spinner being in the correct position, or a hair of brain taxing like getting color order correct on a few occasions, but it's still an improvement. Really, what is an improvement is the gimmick of the game, the Dark Aether side of puzzle solving. Let me just tell you right now, if a puzzle involves Dark Aether, next gonna be something as bare bones as Prime 1, just with load screens mixed in. Take this bridge in the Torvis Bog. The controls for it are only in Dark Aether, so what do? You enter the Dark Portal. After the load screen, use a bomb slot to move the bridge. Then wait for another load screen, travel back to Light Aether, and now the puzzle's completed. You don't even need to find the portals because the portals are in the room with the bridge. And sometimes it's not even that complicated, like in the start of the Sanctuary Fortress, you can't get past the massive wall because you don't have the Spider Ball yet, so you travel Dark Aether where the wall isn't there, then there's a portal back to the Light World on the other side. It isn't even a clever way to trap you in the area because there's still a portal back to Dark Aether so you can still backtrack. Instead, they have a ledge a few rooms later that you jump off of and you can't get back up until you get the Spider Ball. That's so lame. Why not just not include another portal so you can't backtrack until you fight the Spider Guardian? What's the point other than to insert 2 loading screens here? And that's really it. Dark Aether serves no purpose but being an excuse to insert load screens whenever the devs feel like it and have rooms be reused. Was Prime 2 under a strict development cycle because of the drop concepts and original multiplayer pitch, because each area is noticeably smaller than areas in the first Prime game as well? Once you uncover enough of the map, you'll start to notice these areas are more like 3 or so mini areas made up of 2 or 3 rooms apiece that are then connected with hallways. Like in the Aegon Waste, you have about 3 rooms of the natural wasteland, with what little looming off architecture the area holds, about 3 main rooms for the Space Pirate base, and a mining area that is 1 room connected to the temple. That is basically just 3 boxes connected with hallways and a few extra side rooms for holding some items. This can really fuck with people when it comes to save points. In Prime 2 though, because of the more box design, usually save points are tucked in a room somewhere, and unless you're willing to backtrack for it, you may forget it's there. If you expect it on the main route, then yeah, usually you run into that sometimes, but other times the game will expect you to make that little backtrack. So you continue forward without a save, it'll make the game seem stingy. Not to say the game is totally fair with save points whenever it comes to that, because it does get stingy at times. such as when you get the gravity booster and then you can't save until you defeat the alpha block, which that case is also made worse by the whole scan dashing issue that I mentioned in the Prime 1 video. And yeah, let's also go ahead and get into the backtracking now, where Metroid Prime 2 mostly stays contained to a single area at a time. Occasionally likes to do what I can best describe as calling back to the first game by having you backtrack for an additional item to proceed. Prime 1 did this a few times, but it honestly wasn't too bad. Yeah, again, the space jump was a bit of a long backtrack, and no, that isn't part of the rugged joke I have with it. But most of the others were reasonable, and the entire game was designed around it. In Prime 2 there are two instances of that, and when the entire game isn't designed around it, then it becomes a game of where the fuck do I go until the hint system says, hey dumbass, you should be looking over here all of a sudden. The first case of this is after traveling to the Torvis Bog, you fight the Boost Guardian for the Boost Ball, then have access to the Light World Temple for the Super Missiles, then in order to continue you have to backtrack all the way to the Temple Grounds where you can then get the Secret Missiles, then travel all the way back to the Torvis Bog to continue from where you left off. And yes, you have to go through these hallways 3 times on foot. The second instance of this arguably isn't as bad, as you have to travel from the Sanctuary Fortress back to the bottom of the Torvis Bog to fight the Power Bomb Guardian with your newly acquired Spider Ball. And yes, the part that makes this arguably not as bad is this time there's an elevator you can access with Power Bombs to get back to where you need to go in the Sanctuary Fortress. However, this time you are likely to skip that elevator because on the long way back you can get the Sunburst Beam combo. You see, the room that holds this power up can only be accessed over by the Torvis Bog side of the Temple Ground, so unless you want to waste even more time later, you're going to be getting it now, so that genius elevator by the designers goes to fucking waste. Speaking of beam combos, they are pretty damn disappointing this time around. All 3 of them are basically huge explosive bombs. You got the Dark Burst, which creates a black hole sucking enemies, the Sunburst, which blasts the area with a huge light explosion, then the Sonic Boom, which causes an explosion that seems to temporarily crack the fabric of reality. Them being basically just big explosions not only make them less interesting to use, but I feel they are less effective too, since you're less firing them at an enemy and more so expected it to do a wide area of damage. They also don't just take missiles, but also eat through ammo as well. The returning Super Missile at least works as well as before, but otherwise these are just item fodder for the 101% total. And yeah, you 101% the game using a minor glitch to get the first missile expansion twice. Still caps at the same 255, so in the end you don't get anything extra but the extra percentage tick. Eventually though you restore the final temple and be given the light suit. Besides being OSHA violation waiting to happen with those kneecaps, the light suit makes Samus completely immune to the poisonous effects of Dark Aether and allows her to travel in poison water. However, as convenient as this may sound, you're definitely going to need this power because Dark Aether still has the little planetary energy left in the Sky Temple, requiring 9 keys for entry. Each area has 2 keys for you to find, and in order to access them, you'll need the Dark Visor and the Dark Orb to destroy these living key containers the Ing have created. Now, 8 keys plus the one already in the Sky Temple area sounds a lot better than the 11 Chozo artifacts plus the 1 freebie, but no, it's not. To start off, a lot of the Sky Temple keys require the light suit, whether it be deep in poison water or behind these ing swarms that will kill you if you try to run through them without the light suit. Unlike the Chozo artifacts, you can't even begin to collect the few that don't need the light suit until you get the Dark Visor, which is already 2/3 of the way into the game. Now I get it, I used a few sequence breaks to reduce the number of annoying Chozo artifacts down to 3, and without those breaks there are a decent number of pace breaking artifacts, but to totally wall off the hunt for them until the very end of the game just fucking blows. Classic Retro Studios being fucking petty with the sequence breaking. Once you do get all 9 Sky Temple keys, Samus can then enter the Sky Temple in order to fight the Emperor Ing, who is protecting the last of the planetary energy himself. The 3 phases of the boss fight are pretty fun. Needing to use the Secret Missile during the first phase isn't great on the Gamecube version, but still manageable, and this may be the first time a final boss utilizes the Morph Ball with the second phase. Once you finish shooting the fuck out of the third phase though, Samus can finally take the last planetary energy, and Dark Aether begins to collapse.
Alright, Sam, just make use of that cutscene technology. Go ahead and warp your... Shit.
Okay, there isn't much reason to panic. Escaping the Sky Temple isn't the real challenge here, as there are no obstacles on the way out, and you're giving a generous timer. But that generous timer is there for a reason, because as Samus attempts to leave, Dark Samus kicks off for the third and final battle. This is the true final boss of the game, and it's alright. Dark Samus is overloading on Phazon, which is why she's starting to look a lot more like Metroid Prime once again. Which, yeah, Dark Samus is Metroid Prime if you didn't know that. She has become so powerful that she is once again immune to your regular attacks, so you have to blast her with Phazon. We don't have Hyper Mode, but she does spew out pure Phazon you can collect with your Charge Beam to fire back at her. It can be a bit wonky and it is easy to get hit, it seems. But doable as you finally defeat her, and Samus escapes just as Dark Aether ceases to be. Samus returns the light suit and the Lumingoth thank her before bidding farewell. And if you did well enough with your item percentage, she does take off the power suit this time. Now Prime 2 looks great. Despite the dull areas to start the game, the overall textures and models are a huge improvement over Prime 1. It's just those dull areas make it hard for most people to prefer this game visually over the first game. The music is also great, taking the style of Prime 1 and including more darker synths and sounds to make its own identity. If the first game didn't sell you on its large world to explore, then I'm sure the more condensed and streamlined design of Prime 2 will be right up your alley. The higher difficulty can also be a good selling point for some people, and is probably the reason why I enjoy the game much more with each playthrough. I still like Prime 1 more, but Prime 2 is still a great second choice for when I want something a bit different, or a bit more challenging. Now the multiplayer may suck, but that... Oh shit, the multiplayer. Alright, so Metroid Prime 2 still included multiplayer, carrying over the most bare basics from the initial idea of a multiplayer focused Metroid Prime. There are a good handful of maps for you and 3 other people to play on for some good 4-player action. Okay, scratch that, passable 4-player action. There are only 2 game modes, one being your typical team deathmatch, and the other is this bounty mode where damaging players drops coins and killing a player makes them drop all their coins. Whoever has the most at the end, wins. Now 4 players is not happening. I don't have any friends that I can drag onto Metroid Prime 2 to play with this level of contact and lackluster competitive gameplay, no fucking way. But thankfully a little persuasion was enough to convince my brother to join me for some 2-player action. And yeah, the competitive gameplay side of things fucking sucks. Each player gets a basic loadout, the power beam, morph ball bombs, boost ball, and so on. Around the map you can find missiles, super missiles, dark beam, and light beam. There are also power up stations that give you temporary boosts like invisibility, the ability to hack someone and drain their health, or infinite ammo for a time, as well as the useless death ball. It's extremely hard to hit shocks and will quickly devolve into spamming the dash and firing, hoping something lands, or everyone can boost ball around in morph ball mode to waste time. Unless someone gets the Annihilator Beam, which its homing properties and high damage quickly make things one-sided. You can probably see how bored me and my brother were getting after just a few matches. It's a good time waste, I guess, but you're better off playing Call of Duty or Halo for a multiplayer shooter with friends.
Alright, so that's Metroid Prime 2. It's a pretty good game, all things considered. Yeah, it's had its ups and downs, but all series have games like that, like Zelda and Sonic, so... yeah, if you want more Metroid, play Metroid Prime 2, and if you didn't like the first game, there's plenty to enjoy in Prime 2 that's different. That's probably why there's so many differing opinions now. So, yeah. Now, we got the next game. You know what, on second thought, I think I'm getting a little sick of Metroid, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into Metroid.
Did you knock him out? Good. Timer. Where do you even get a hat like that?